Social work with older people and persons with disabilities. Part 2. Problems of older persons. 1. Economic insecurity. After retirement, many older persons lose a stable source of income and may lack savings or pension. They often depend on their children or others for basic needs, which can lead to stress and a sense of burden. Rising costs of living and healthcare further add to their financial struggles. 2. Non-preparedness for old age. Most people do not plan adequately for aging, both financially and emotionally. They are often unprepared for retirement, physical limitations, or lifestyle changes. This sudden shift leads to confusion, helplessness, and insecurity in old age. 3. Household problems. Elderly people may feel unwanted or neglected in their own homes, especially in nuclear families. They often face intergenerational conflicts or are excluded from family decisions. In some cases, they are left alone without proper care or support. 4. Health problems. With age, health declines and chronic illnesses like diabetes, arthritis, and heart disease become common. Many elders cannot afford proper treatment or lack access to healthcare facilities. Limited mobility and poor nutrition also contribute to declining health. 5. Psychological problems. Older persons frequently experience loneliness, depression, anxiety, or fear of death. Loss of spouse, retirement, and reduced social interaction affect their mental well-being. They may also suffer from low self-esteem and a lack of purpose in life. 6. Elder abuse. Some elderly individuals face physical, emotional, or financial abuse, often by their own relatives or caregivers. They may be shouted at, ignored, exploited for money, or even abandoned. Due to fear or dependency, most cases remain unreported. Rights of older persons against neglect, abuse, violence, and abandonment. 1. Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act, 2007, India. Right. Elders have the legal right to be maintained by their children or relatives. Protection. The Act provides for monthly maintenance, protection from neglect and abandonment. Year, 2007. 2. Article 41 of the Indian Constitution. Right. Guarantees the right to public assistance in case of old age, sickness, and disability. Provision. Supports elder welfare through state policies. Year of Constitution Enforcement, 1950. 3. Protection under Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code, CRPC. Right. Parents, including older persons, can claim maintenance from their children through court. Legal action. If children neglect them, they can legally demand financial support. Year, 1973, CRPC Enactment Year. 4. United Nations Principles for Older Persons, 1991. Right. Includes rights to independence, participation, care, self-fulfillment, and dignity. Focus, protection against abuse, violence, and abandonment globally. Year, 1991. 5. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Right to life with dignity applies to older persons too. Protection, ensures protection against violence, abuse, and neglect. Year of Constitution Enforcement, 1950. Models of disability. 1. Moral/religious model. This is the oldest model, where disability is seen as a result of sin, karma, or divine punishment. People with disabilities were often pitted, excluded, or seen as spiritually impure. It promotes charity or prayer as a form of help, not rights or empowerment. 2. Medical model. This model views disability as a medical problem that exists within the individual. It focuses on diagnosis, treatment, and curing the disability through medical intervention. It often ignores social or environmental barriers and emphasizes dependence on doctors. 3. Social model. According to this model, disability is caused by social barriers, not the individual's condition. It argues that discrimination, lack of accessibility, and negative attitudes are the real problems. This model promotes inclusion, accessibility, and removing barriers in society. 4. Disability as identity model. This model sees disability as a positive part of one's identity and culture. People with disabilities form a shared community with pride, language, like sign language, and experiences. It emphasizes self-acceptance and rejects the idea that disability is something to be fixed. 5. Human rights model. This model focuses on the dignity, rights, and equality of persons with disabilities. It promotes equal access to education, employment, healthcare, and justice. Laws like the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, 2006, are based on this model. Historical perspective of disability movement, global. 1. Pre-20th century, charity and exclusion. Disability was seen as a result of sin, punishment, or fate. People with disabilities were often excluded, hidden, or sent to asylums. They were treated with pity and supported mainly through charity, not rights. 2. Early 20th century, medical model era. Disability was viewed as a medical defect within the individual. People were institutionalized, and the focus was on cure or rehabilitation. They had little say in decisions about their own lives. 3. Post-World War II, beginning of social awareness. Injured soldiers and war veterans increased public focus on rehabilitation. Governments began to provide services like prosthetics, therapy, and pensions. However, disabled people were still largely excluded from society. 4. 1960s and 1980s, rise of disability rights movement. Inspired by other human rights movements, disabled people began to demand equal treatment. The social model of disability emerged, focusing on societal barriers rather than personal deficits. Self-advocacy and independent living became key demands. 5. 1990s, 2000s, legal recognition and human rights. Landmark laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, 1990, gave civil rights to disabled individuals. In 2006, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD, was adopted. This marked a shift from charity/medical models to a human rights approach. 6. Present day, inclusion and empowerment. Global focus is now on inclusion, universal design, and equal opportunity. Persons with disabilities are viewed as equal participants in society. Movements now stress accessibility, dignity, and meaningful participation. Historical perspective of disability movement, Indian context. 1. Pre-independence India, traditional beliefs. Disability was seen through religious and karmic views, often as punishment for past sins. There were no rights or government support systems. Persons with disabilities relied solely on family or religious charity. 2. Post-independence, 1950s, 1980s, medical and welfare approach. India adopted a welfare model focusing on special schools and rehabilitation centers. Institutes like NIM, 1953, and NIVH, 1979, were established for disability services. People with disabilities were seen more as recipients of help, not as rights holders. 3. 1995, Persons with Disabilities Act, PWD Act. This was India's first major disability law, enacted in 1995. It aimed to ensure education, employment, and accessibility for persons with 7 recognized disabilities. It emphasized equal opportunity and full participation but had limited enforcement mechanisms. 4. 2007, India ratifies UNCRPD. India ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD, in 2007. This obligated India to shift from a welfare to a rights-based approach to disability. It laid the foundation for future legal reforms. 5. 2016, Rights of Persons with Disabilities, RPWD, Act. The RPWD Act, 2016 replaced the 1995 Act to align with UNCRPD principles. It expanded the list of recognized disabilities from 7 to 21 and provided stronger rights. The Act ensures legal capacity, inclusive education, employment, and protection from abuse. 6. Present-day, rights, inclusion, and empowerment. India now promotes a more inclusive society through schemes, accessibility laws, and awareness. There is growing focus on inclusive education, assistive technology, and political participation. Disability is increasingly seen as a matter of equality and dignity, not charity. Milestones in promoting the rights of the disabled. 1. ICCPR and ICESCR, 1966. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, ICESCR, were adopted by the UN in 1966. These covenants recognized that all human beings, including persons with disabilities, are entitled to rights such as freedom, dignity, education, work, and healthcare. Though not disability-specific, they laid a foundation for inclusive rights-based approaches. 2. International Year and Decade of Disabled Persons. The International Year of Disabled Persons was declared by the UN in 1981 to promote equality and full participation. This led to the UN Decade of Disabled Persons, 1983 to 1992, focusing on creating global awareness and improving services, accessibility, and employment. It marked the beginning of a global disability rights movement and encouraged governments to act. 3. Vienna Declaration and Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. The Vienna Declaration, 1993, from the World Conference on Human Rights reaffirmed that disability rights are human rights. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed in the United States in 1990, providing civil rights protections in employment, education, and public access. The ADA became a model law globally and inspired many other countries, including India. 4. United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD, 2006. The UNCRPD is the first comprehensive international treaty focused solely on the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities. Adopted in 2006, it promotes equality, accessibility, non-discrimination, and full participation. India signed and ratified it in 2007, leading to legal reforms like the RPWD Act, 2016. Legislative measures for disabled persons in India. 1. Rehabilitation Council of India Act, 1992. This act established the Rehabilitation Council of India, RCI, to regulate training of rehabilitation professionals. It ensures that only qualified and registered professionals provide services to persons with disabilities. The Act also standardizes courses and maintains a central register of practitioners. 2. National Trust Act, 1999. Full name, National Trust for the Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Mental Retardation and Multiple Disabilities Act, 1999. This act was enacted for the protection and care of persons with specific developmental disabilities. It promotes guardianship, independent living, and legal protection for such individuals. The National Trust also supports NGOs and community-based programs for lifelong care. 3. Rights of Persons with Disabilities, RPWD, Act, 2016. This act replaced the PWD Act, 1995 to align with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD. It expanded the list of recognized disabilities from 7 to 21 categories, including blood disorders, autism, and mental illness. The Act ensures equality, accessibility, inclusive education, employment, and protection from discrimination and abuse. Social work interventions with persons with disabilities. 1. Casework and counseling. Social workers provide individual counseling to help persons with disabilities deal with emotional, psychological, or adjustment issues. They support in building self-esteem, coping skills, and managing stigma or social rejection. 2. Family intervention. Social workers involve the family in the rehabilitation process. They educate families on how to support the disabled person and reduce overprotection, neglect, or emotional burden. 3. Group work. Persons with disabilities are encouraged to participate in support groups or self-help groups. This promotes sharing of experiences, mutual support, social interaction, and empowerment. 4. Community organization. Social workers work at the community level to create awareness, remove stigma, and promote inclusion. They help in forming disabled persons organizations, DPOs, and make communities accessible and inclusive. 5. Advocacy and rights promotion. Social workers act as advocates for the rights of persons with disabilities. They help individuals access legal rights, government schemes, assistive devices, and fight discrimination. 6. Referral services. Social workers connect persons with disabilities to rehabilitation centers, medical professionals, special educators, and vocational training institutes. They act as a bridge between the person and different support systems. 7. Policy implementation and monitoring. Social workers help implement disability laws like the RPWD Act, 2016. They also monitor whether institutions, schools, or workplaces are following accessibility and inclusion norms. 8. Vocational rehabilitation. They assist in skill development, career counseling, and job placement for persons with disabilities. The goal is to promote economic independence and social dignity.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in next video.